Well, good evening and welcome to a special late night edition of Dome at Home. Thanks everybody for catching up with us with the time change. Had a little bit of a conflict at 7 o'clock and so now we are here. Okay, hopefully the audio is working and the music should be disappearing very soon. There we go. All right. So, I gotta say it has been a day, actually a couple of days, where it has been super busy. You may have seen if people are chatting in the chat already about the two bright meteors that happened. The first one, that happens every so often. We get calls and we talk about it, and it's a news story. Well, there was one Tuesday night and there was another one Wednesday night visible from largely the same area, and that's really unusual. And so my day today started at 6:15 when the phone started ringing, and I have been basically running non-stop. So if my voice completely gives out, I apologize, because I have been chatting about stuff falling from the sky. So we are going to talk about that tonight. We're going to do a little bit about what's up in the sky. We are going to save our topic of light pollution for a time when things aren't quite so crazy, so we're kind of being preempted a little bit. We are going to cover it though. It's an important one and a good one, so we'll do that. I am working on the spring and summer schedule for Dome at Home. Thank you for those of you that have sent in suggestions for show topics and things like that. We're going to be doing We're going to be featuring the planet Earth on the show closest to Earth Day on the 24th of April. And we'll be doing also some other themes. We're going to be doing some stuff on cameras. We're going to be doing some stuff on meteorites and how to find them and a bunch of things like that. So if you do have suggestions for shows, send them in to us, and now's a great time. Callie's saying there's reverb in the audio. I wonder why that is. Let me just check. I only have one microphone active, and I'm not quite sure why that is. How about now? Is it better? Hopefully it's better. There seems to be a little bit of an audio glitch in my software. I'm going to have to play around with that, but hopefully you can hear me. All right, let's get started. We have been blessed the last couple of days with these bright meteors. Now, the one on Tuesday wasn't really visible from Winnipeg because it was kind of cloudy, but I think folks out in Brandon and western Manitoba were able to see it, as well as people all across Saskatchewan and down into North Dakota. So that was a pretty spectacular thing. Then the next night we had another one which was visible. We had at least 60 reports from Winnipeg because it was perfectly clear here. I know that because I was outside with my telescope right up until about 3 minutes before the meteor occurred. I went inside to warm up and make some tea and, take sort of a break from being outside under the sky, and I missed it. It seems to be my luck, actually. I hear about these things the next morning quite often. But anyway, I did get to see some great footage. We're going to show you some of the footage that we got of this meteor. You've probably seen some of it online before, but there's some here that is really spectacular. Let's get started with, first of all, some of your images and some of the upcoming events. Thank you to so many of you that have joined us on the various Dome at Home courses. It's been nice to have so many familiar faces out in those courses. We've done 3 of them so far. The introductory ones are done for the spring. We'll do them again in the fall probably. But the intermediate ones will be starting in April after spring break. And the first one coming up is the new telescope user's guide. You've got a new telescope, you want to look at something. Oops, come back here, there we go. What do you do with it? How do you make it work? Most telescopes don't come with a great instruction manual. They tell you how to put it together, but not necessarily what to do with it. So we're going to go through all that for you. This will also include some downloadable star maps and some other resources that I put together for the people in that class. So there's still a few spaces left. The last time I checked earlier today. So if you want to sign up for that, manitobamuseum.ca, click over to the Dome at Home section in the planetarium and click on astronomy courses or Dome at Home courses, and you will find all the details there. We got some great images sent this week. Here's a shot from Ulrich, who's a regular viewer, and this is a shot just with a regular Canon PowerShot digital camera, not even on a tripod, handheld, and Ulrich relates that she basically just braced her hands against the window frame and got a really clear, well-focused image of the last quarter moon. And you can really see right along the terminator there, all of these beautiful craters cast in sharp relief by the shadows there. And there's a mountain range here. It's really cool because the tops of the mountains here are still poking up into the setting sun, whereas down at sort of ground level, the sun has set and it's all dark. So you've got these little bright spots that stick over the edge of the dark part of the moon. Just a beautiful shot. Well done, Ulrich. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Stan and Sylvia Clausen also sent us in some images. You may remember Stan getting his early birthday present, his 6-inch Skywatcher Dobsonian. Well, he found the Orion Nebula and just held the phone to the eyepiece and took a great shot of the nebula. And then Sylvia sort of took the picture and put it into Photoshop to do a little bit of processing to try and bring out some of the color and the detail. And so they have these two versions of the same image. This one nicely processed to show that really beautiful sort of magenta red hydrogen color around the core. And I kind of like this one, just the sort of the raw image. You can see some of the fainter outer extent of the nebula, and you can definitely see right in here this sort of dark dust cloud that is blocking out the light there. And right in the center, there's about where the trapezium, the 4 stars, are right in the middle. So great picture, you guys. And this really does also show that once you get the picture, that's only half the work. You sort of have to develop it by putting it in the computer and tweaking all the information. So, okay, it looks like the audio has stabilized. I've done nothing to fix it, so hey, flukes count. This is a picture that I took last night. I was playing around with a new camera configuration for me. It's one of those little CMOS cameras. It's built just for astronomy, and it's designed to go into a telescope eyepiece. So it's a little small thing that goes right into your computer. You can't use it without a computer, basically. And I stuck this on the telescope and got it all set up and focused, and then just had it take 3-minute exposures over and over and over again. And then I just looked at the sky while it was doing that. And then I went inside and warmed up and missed the meteor. And then I came back outside and sat there and just basically let it work till about 3 in the morning. And then the next morning I put all the pictures and I added them together one by one in the computer. And each picture actually looks pretty terrible. You can see stars, but you can't really see any galaxies. But by stacking them up, you get this nice little spiral galaxy. So that's kind of cool. And I was pretty surprised. This was the first night out with this camera, and this is with the little 80mm refractor that I've got. So not a big telescope, but it's amazing what you can do with the digital technology. Lots of folks checking in the chat. This is great. I was worried we'd lose a lot of people because of the time change. So thank you, so many of you, for coming along. We're going to talk about that in cool space stuff. Why don't we just come back to our sky here. Okay. So the sky, of course, is 2 hours later than we normally are, but really it's only an hour later because daylight savings time has given us a fake hour anyway. So really it's only 8 o'clock as far as the sky is concerned. So we're not really that far out. Daylight savings time has really thrown me for a loop in terms of, when I can get outside and start, observing the sky. The west still has Orion the Hunter as the dominating constellation. The belt stars point off to Sirius and Canis Major, famous constellation, and it is a still very, very bright scene over in the southwest. When I came in last night, after putting the telescope away at 3 in the morning, Orion had pretty much already set. At least it was down behind some houses, but Sirius was just on the horizon, and it was really flashing and twinkling, that red and the blue colors and things like that. When it gets down low, we've talked about that before, how Sirius really, really twinkles. Off in the south, we've got those faint springtime constellations. Leo is getting up higher and higher, and Cancer the Crab over here also getting up relatively high, quite a bit harder to see than many of the constellations that we're sort of familiar with. As we go over into the east, we've got the Big Dipper standing up on its handle, and rising a little bit north of east is the bright star Arcturus. This is one of the bright stars of spring, kind of a yellowy orange colored star, and so it definitely is worth doing to take a peek at it. If you don't see the colors with your unaided eye, a pair of binoculars can sometimes bring that out. Arcturus is in the constellation of Boötes the herdsman, or to me, this is the ice cream cone. Now, this last week, I've been working on the new Planetarium Show that opens on Saturday, Legends of the Northern Sky, which is a wonderful program put together by our colleagues at the Edmonton Planetarium. And it is all about some of the Ininewok, the Cree sky stories and constellations. Very, very different from the classical Roman and Greek ones. I really, really love some of these stories. Sorry, they don't even call them stories, they're tellings, because story kind of sounds a little frivolous. And these tellings actually are not only important material to help people remember the sky, but they also contain wisdom and legends that are sort of passed down from generation to generation. That's a really great story, a really great show with some great sky tellings in it. That opens up on Saturday. It features the stars of the Big Dipper appearing in not one but two different guises, because one of the neat things about some of the Cree stories, I'm still using the word story, the Cree tellings, is that they use the same stars for different stories and different characters. It's not like a constellation is only one thing. It's whatever it needs to be for that telling. So that's a different way of looking at the sky than what we're used to. Okay, let's see. Still some comments on audio. I'm not sure why we would be having any kind of latency or any kind of issue. Oh, you know what? Let me just... Has that done it? Has that fixed it? With the new camera, there's a built-in microphone onto it, and sometimes it automatically turns on. So hopefully that has fixed it. Anyway, I know there's a bit of a... Okay, good, excellent. I know there's a bit of a delay before the chat can catch up with me, because the show is delayed by about 4 seconds by the time it goes from here up to the magic internet cloud and then down to you and then back. So I'm glad it's working. Okay, fantastic. This is why most people don't do solo shows, but they have a tech with them. Anyway, all right. Over in the northern sky, you know, the northern sky is always pretty much the same constellations. They're just in slightly different locations based on how they're rotated around. So we've got Cassiopeia low in the northwest. It's sort of sinking into the northwest as the Big Dipper gets higher and higher. And last night around midnight, the Big Dipper was literally straight overhead. So even if you're living in, you know, and around buildings and things like that, you should be able to see it clear the horizon, because it'll be literally straight overhead. Okay, let's see. Let us move on to the meteors that we saw. I'm going to start here with my cousin, Kayla, was, we just connected a little while ago. We're, you know, from branches of the family that didn't really grow up together or whatever, and we found each other through the magic of ancestry and Facebook. And so she sends me this thing today, like, my boyfriend was out driving last night and he got this crazy image on his dashboard cam. You want to take a look at it? And so he's driving along, and all of a sudden this fireball falls out of the sky. And this is this is the kind of thing that if you saw it with your eyes, you should consider yourself lucky, because it's a once in a lifetime kind of event. Now, interestingly, it was the second one that week. There was another one visible the night before. I think that this one, the Wednesday night one, was the brighter of the two. But it's really hard to tell because, you know, between different cameras and all that kind of stuff, it's really hard to figure out, you know, what the brightness is. It's also hard to figure out from that what the size of these objects are. Most meteors that we see, falling stars, are like a grain of sand or a tiny little pebble, you know, a millimeter or so across, like smaller than a grain of rice. These ones are bigger than a grain of rice, somewhere up to the size of a baseball maybe, or even up to a grapefruit or perhaps a basketball. I love this slow motion close-up that we got here. You can see that something inside the car, I think the front of the camera, actually reflects the brightness back onto the windshield. The flash is so bright, and then that trail out behind it. It's a spectacular video. So thanks, Ryan, for sharing this with us. And there are now a number of these videos online, because it's not just dashboard cams. Anybody that has a doorbell cam probably recorded this meteor. So if you've got a doorbell camera that faces north, check it and see if you've still got footage on there, because that's how we're finding a lot of these videos, is, you know, these sort of surveillance cameras, security cameras, or convenience cameras are just picking them all up. You don't need a dedicated all-sky meteor camera anymore. There's just so many cameras around that that we can definitely just see them. So let's take a look at these two events. And what I'm going to do is we're just going to switch over our views here. Let's start with this one. So this was the one on Tuesday night. Each of these little people here represents a person that observed the event and then reported it to the International Meteor Organization. Now, there's a couple of different groups that do this. The IMO is one. The American Meteor Society is another one, AMS. I like the IMO website because they literally do all the math for you. They plot out people's observations, and you can actually, you know, they tell you where they first saw it and where it disappeared and how high it was and stuff like that. You fill in this form when you report it. They do all the math and they average out all of the different observations, because of course everybody's a little off, and they figure out the true trajectory of this object. So the one on Tuesday night actually entered the atmosphere just over the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border, just on the Saskatchewan side, just sort of north of Swan River by, what, 100, 120 kilometers? I don't know if you folks out there saw it or if you had good weather, Swan River crew, but then it headed southwest and burnt up maybe 50 kilometers east of Humboldt, Saskatchewan. Now, that doesn't mean that that's where it hit the ground, because the burning, the melting, the flash happens very high in the atmosphere. And so if anything survives that, then it's basically just a piece of rock that is falling from the sky from, 50 kilometers up, or maybe only a few dozen kilometers up. It depends on how deep it penetrates into the atmosphere. So you wouldn't expect to see, a big crater or an explosion or any kind of fire or anything like that caused by a meteor. In fact, when they hit the ground, they're not usually even warm, because, several kilometers above the surface of the Earth, it is really cold. So as soon as this meteor stops melting, it pretty much instantly freezes, and then it just falls to the ground. And it keeps moving along its path. So if it burnt out here, probably any meteors would be scattered in, some kind of region like this. So usually, if you see it in the sky, you're probably not going to find pieces, unless it was coming sort of straight down towards you. This person, whoever this is, might be in about the right spot to go looking for it. So this one, we had like 45 reports into the IMO, and they were able to nail down this trajectory pretty precisely. And because you've got people on both sides of it, these people were looking north to see it, and these people were looking south, so you can really triangulate and figure out the whole path of it. The next night, we had this one. And this one we had much more representation from the city of Winnipeg, just because it was perfectly clear here, and it happened at 9:45. So a lot of people, I guess, were outside enjoying the nice warm weather, but also from all across Manitoba. Now this is interesting. Look at how short this arrow is compared to the other ones. This one was coming almost straight down, a little bit to the right. And so because it came in very, very steep, it's entirely possible that it penetrated quite deep into the atmosphere and might have exploded and showered some pieces around. Now, if we go back to our little video here, this was from Winnipeg, but if we sort of imagine the idea that this is coming almost straight down and there's these big flashes at the end there, that's the kind of thing that could produce actual meteorites that make it down to the surface. If this was right next to Winnipeg, I would be driving out to go looking for meteorites. It's not right next to Winnipeg, and it's in a relatively unpopulated area. I mean, there's lots of people around there, but there's a lot of it will be like private land or things like that. So I'm not going to head out for this one. But if you happen to live in the Interlake, or you're looking for a good vacation time, keep your eyes open if you're in this area, because you never know. There may be pieces from that meteor, from that object, lying out there just waiting to be found. Now, the other great thing about the IMO website is that people submit their videos to that. And so, for example, there are a whole bunch of these other videos from, doorbell cameras and things like that that basically show similar kinds of view. Let's see, this one was from, there's a good view of that one off in the distance. These can be measured and provide really, really precise information for people tracking the fireball. All the media today, and I think I talked to all of them, were saying, well, do you think there'll be another one tomorrow night? I really don't. It's going to be rainy here tomorrow night anyway, so, or even tonight. The odds of this happening twice like that is really, really low. And from what we can tell, these aren't connected. These are not objects that, it's not like they came from the same thing and they were just coming in at different times or whatever. They're just two random things that happen to occur back to back. So, there's a lot of stuff in the chat here about some of the stuff. Someone said earlier that they were in their hot tub when the meteor came in. That's the way to do astronomy. Sitting in the hot tub and just relaxing and waiting for things to fall out of the sky. That is a great way to do it. Let's see. Just checking out the rest of the things. Yeah, there's lots of comments of audio. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I would like to move us off the meteor topic for now. Sorry, I'm a little bit scattered. I've been awake for far too many hours, and it doesn't stop tomorrow morning. I'm on CTV Morning Live starting at 6:42 as well. So it's a busy time. But we're gonna head over to some
cool space stuff.
Now, this was happening while we did the show last time. The Artemis 1 rocket was rolling out, and we didn't really have any great pictures during the show because they had just started moving. But it took about 10 and a half hours for them to roll this rocket, the 4 kilometers out to the launch pad at a top speed of about 1.5 kilometers an hour. And they had to stop a bunch of times and do some tests and all that kind of thing. So it was very, very slow, but there were some great shots that were taken. It occurred basically right during sunset. And so as the sun went down, you had these beautiful changing colors. This is my favorite shot. One of the folks at spaceflightnow.com, I think, took this one, and it is just beautiful. The rocket illuminated there with some floodlights, but the beautiful sunset colors of Florida in the background there. This is a shot from just today. They are hooking the rocket up to the various equipment, and they're going to be doing tests and things like that. And someone figured out exactly when the moon was going to be right in the shot, and got this picture with there's the moon in the background, the target for the Artemis 1 mission, which will be launching sometime in June. Oops, thought I had one more Artemis picture. Quite a nice view. Now this they're going to be doing tests for another 3 weeks or so. Then they're rolling it back to the vehicle assembly building. They'll do some more tests. Then they'll roll it out to the launch pad for a launch attempt, perhaps in June, more likely in July, possibly in August. You know, it's a test, so you don't know when it's going to go. But we know that things are moving, and we've talked about the fact that the second flight, the first one that has astronauts on it, will have a Canadian astronaut on it. We just got email from the Canadian Space Agency today saying, hey, what are you guys going to do to promote Artemis, and what can we do to provide you? What can we provide you? So we're hoping to get some CSA scientists for some interviews and things like that. What we're really hoping is that they'll tell us who's going to be on that flight, though. I'd really like to know which astronaut will be going up there, although it doesn't really matter. Any Canadian going around the moon will be pretty cool. Okay, let's see here. Now we do have a few minutes for questions. The show was a little bit scattered tonight, as you could tell, partly because of all the things that are going on. We do have coming up spring break, which for us starts on Saturday and then runs for 10 days straight to the next Sunday. And the museum, the Science Center, Science Gallery, and the Planetarium are open 7 days a week. We have 5 shows a day in the Planetarium. Legends of the Northern Sky, Magic Globe, which is still a relatively new show. That's sort of our family-oriented show. And then there is no dedicated live show during spring break, but Legends of the Northern Sky actually begins with a 20-minute live program that sort of covers some of the basics and then goes into the pre-recorded segment all about the Cree sky tellings. So that'll be a good one to check out. After that, the Planetarium will be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're starting to open back up. There will be shows during the day that you can come to. Legends of the Northern Sky will be playing at least once a day. And also there will be other shows that we have school groups booked into, but those will be also open to the public. And then coming up in April, around Earth Day weekend, we're doing a special set of programs. So there's a whole bunch of things coming up at the Planetarium. We've got our astronomy courses and so on, and lots of different things going on. Ben is saying, I heard the chopper on Mars had its 22nd flight. Yes, Ingenuity has flown 22 times now. The last flight took it up about 10 meters. So that's a pretty high view. And they still only do, a couple of minutes flying at a time. Because it really was a test thing. It wasn't really designed to do long flights, but they're sort of pushing it, and it's getting quite a bunch of good data. And its partner, Perseverance, or Percy, is collecting those samples that will be returned to Earth on a future mission. So they've got lots of samples that are sort of packed away and ready to go. And yeah, that's a fun thing. Let's see. Ryder says, when a meteor goes by, I immediately run outside to go check it out. Yeah, it's one of those things that you almost have to be looking in the right direction just by coincidence, because I've been outside like at a star party or something, and I'll be looking one way and suddenly I'll see the ground light up in front of me and see my shadow like move across, and everybody in front of me is pointing over my shoulder. And by the time I turn to look, it's over. It's literally, don't blink or you'll miss it. But you can be lucky. The more time you spend under the sky, the more likely you're going to be able to see some of these things, whether it's bright meteors like that, or whether it's spectacular northern lights, or whether it's just a really good view of the Milky Way or something like that. Ryder's asking, if we go to the Planetarium, will we see you, Scott? Well, that depends on when you go. I actually will be running the first show on Saturday this Saturday at the Planetarium. It's the sort of the premiere of Legends of the Northern Sky. So I'm going to be running that one, and I'll be around for part of that day. I tend to not run all the Planetarium shows, though. Some of the other staff run those, but I do, pop around. If you're going to come and visit the Planetarium, shoot me an email and let me know, and I will definitely try and be around and say hi, because normally we would have been out at a park somewhere looking through telescopes together, and I would have had a chance to meet everybody, but we haven't had that opportunity. So if you are going to drop by the Planetarium, please let me know, and I'd love to come out and say hi and give you the behind the scenes tour, which is actually not as cool as it sounds. There's not much behind the scenes, but that's all I got. So yeah, drop by, and it would be wonderful to see you. All right. The morning sky planets update, please. Yes, all of our planet action is in the morning sky. And so if you want to see things, you really have to get up early. Now I'm going to be up early tomorrow, but it's likely going to be cloudy. So I probably won't get a great view of things tomorrow. But there is some neat stuff happening as the planets all go around the sun. This is the view about 6:30 in the morning. We've got brilliant Venus, which is easy to see. We've got the moon, which is now a waning crescent. It was last quarter, 2 nights ago, 1 night ago. And underneath Venus, there are a couple of objects. Now, these are very low, and they're quite faint compared to Venus, but they are getting brighter, and they are getting slightly easier to see. Over here, we have the red planet Mars, and over here we have Saturn. And right now, they're forming this nice little triangle here. I don't think you will see these ones with your unaided eye. I'm sure that, a pair of binoculars will show them, and I think you could probably see them if you were to take a picture of the sky. They might show up then, but it's pretty hard to see them against the bright sky, at least in my experience. If you go out just at the right time, just as the as they rise a little bit higher, but before the sky gets too bright, you might be able to see them. But by 7 o'clock, they're probably going to disappear. So try and check those out. We're just going to rewind back to 6:30 here for a second, because I want to show you what happens over the next few days. As we get into the weekend, the moon starts moving closer to those objects as it orbits around us. And here we are on the 27th, where they're all sort of clustered together in a fairly nice area. And then the 28th, the moon is like right underneath Venus, but it's really low. Again, I'm not sure that we will see that unless you have a really, really clear view of the southeastern sky, and the air conditions are really, really steady. It would be a great view. Now, if you live farther south, or if you happen to be, in Texas or something like that, the angle actually sort of swings up a little bit, and it becomes easier to see. So we'll probably see some pictures on the internet of this grouping of planets and the moon, but it'll be from points farther south. On the 29th, the moon will have left the scene, and these planets are still, in their little triangular kind of shape. And as the month comes to an end, here we are on the 31st, they're really getting lost in the sunrise there. If we rewind a little bit earlier, again, you might be able to see them around 6:30, 6:40 or so. To give you a sense of the scale here, let me just put on our set of binoculars here. I'll just go to a pair of regular binoculars. There we go. And now I'm just going to center on Saturn. So this is the field of view of a pair of binoculars, and pretty much the entire time, Venus and Saturn and Mars will be almost within the field of view of binoculars. They might be just slightly outside, but that puts them pretty close together. Now, when I was doing prep for this, I noticed that there's also this little fuzzy thing up here. It turns out that there's a comet in that area of the sky. Now, it will not be visible. This comet is very, very faint and diffuse, and up against the bright sky, you wouldn't see it at all. But it's just kind of interesting that, we're looking at these solar system objects, and there happens to be another one in that direction that is in the field of view. It's just too faint for us to see. But so it's a little distracting to me in the binocular field here, because it looks like I should see it, but I know that we wouldn't. Let's see. Ulrich's asking, what about Uranus? Uranus is still low in the evening sky, like right after sunset. So let me just get back here to our sunset. And we'll zoom out a bit. I don't think it's even visible at this point, to be honest. Let's just search it up rather than me hunting around for it. Ah, yeah, there it is. So very, very low in the sky as it gets dark. And as soon as, the sky starts to darken enough, it's already getting very low. So you might be done with Uranus. You might still be able to catch it, but you might be done with it for the season until it reappears in the morning sky. So sort of down below the Pleiades is the rough area where you look at it. Ryder's asking, why is Venus bigger than Mars even though Mars is closer to us? Well, that's a good question. First of all, right now, Mars isn't closer to us. It's sort of on the far side of the sun, whereas Venus is actually on the near side of the sun relative to us. So Venus is closer to us right now than Mars is. You're right, on average, we're closer to Mars, but because we're all going around the sun, kind of like cars on a racetrack, sometimes two of them are on the same side and the other one's on the far side. So that's kind of what's going on. Venus also appears brighter because it is covered with white shiny clouds that reflect all the sunlight. And so it's basically like a big ivory cue ball with the light shining off it. Whereas Mars is made of rocks and it doesn't have very much in the way of clouds or white ice or things like that. There's only a little bit. And so it doesn't reflect as much light. So it looks a lot dimmer. So, all right. That brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you for sticking with us, even with the time change. I really appreciate that. And it was pretty essential for me to be able to handle some things here. We will be back next week with a preview of the April sky. What we're going to start doing is at the end of each month, we're going to look ahead to the next month, and we'll talk about all the planets and constellations and any celestial events like meteor showers or eclipses or things like that, so that you're all prepared for them for the month to come. So that'll be next week. And very soon after that, you will see our new Dome at Home schedule for season 6, which begins April the 7th. And that will be back to our regular time at 7 o'clock. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your questions, for your images, and for your support of the planetarium. We really love to know that there are so many people out there that are interested in what we do and like the same things that we do. So it's great to talk to you all. Have a wonderful evening. I hope you get some clear skies, and I hope you have the chance to come down to the planetarium, whether it's during spring break week when we've got all these things going on, or whether it's just on the weekend following that. It'd be great to see you. So thanks again. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy the clear skies.